Hello and welcome to Security Scan. I am Uday Bhaskar. The focus this week is a special success story, the ISRO Century as it were. On Wednesday, February the 15th, the Indian Space Research Organization or ISRO established a world record when it successfully launched as many as 104 satellites from a single rocket. ISRO has done the country proud and needs to be commended for the profile and credibility it has acquired, and that too in a very cost-effective manner. The world's first satellite was launched in October 1957, 60 years ago, by the former USSR. This was Sputnik 1. In early 1958, the United States responded by launching Explorer 1, and the space race had begun in earnest. More so, given the linkages between rocket technology and missiles on one hand, and the relevance of satellite surveillance in nurturing strategic deterrence. India is a relatively new entrant to the space domain. The first Indian-built satellite, Aryabhata, was launched with Soviet assistance in 1975. ISRO has made impressive strides in a relatively short period and in the face of many challenges and technology denial regimes. Globally, the United States has invested about US $40 billion in the space sector. China is estimated to have spent $6 billion, the Russians are pegged at $5 billion, Japan is under $4 billion, and frugal India has spent just about $1.2 billion to date. Currently, the total number of operational satellites worldwide are under 1,550 or 1,550, and this includes the 104 launched by ISRO on February 15th. The United States leads the global satellite ladder with a total of 576, of which 146 are used for military purposes. Today, satellites are an integral part of the communication, development and national security spectrum, and India has prioritized the space sector in its overall national endeavor. To discuss this issue, we have a very eminent panel, Mr. Bagla, Science Editor of NDTV, Group Captain Ajey Lele, a Senior Fellow in the IDSA, a noted space expert, and Lieutenant General V.K. Saxena, a former DG, Air Defence, and also now helping war widows as part of Project Sparsh. Let me turn to you first, Mr. Bagla. Perhaps you could help us to understand the significance of what happened on Wednesday, the 15th of February, when, as they say, ISRO scored a century.
Certainly. See, ISRO scored a century by launching 104 satellites in space on a single launch. The world record till 15th of Feb was held by Russia when they had put in 37 satellites in space. So it was a very significant milestone, and ISRO not just broke the record, but it shattered the record in a very big way. But ISRO did not go out to shatter any record or break any records. That is what the chairman of the Indian Space Research Organization, Dr. Kiran Kumar, told me, saying that we had spare capacity, and in that spare capacity, we just asked if there were passengers who wanted to board the bus, and ultimately 101 passengers came on board, and 3 of them were Indian, so 104 is the figure which was arrived at.
But Pallava, a quick question. Most of these were small satellites, nano satellites.
Yes. The big passenger in this particular launch was India's Cartosat 2 series satellite, of which I'll give you a little detail later. But rest of them, 103 of them were small satellites, each weighing between 4 kg to 10 kilograms in weight. And a bulk of them, 96 of them were from America, and of which 88 are part of one particular swarm or a flock of satellites called the Dove, launched by a San Francisco-based company called Planet Incorporated. They want to do Earth imaging, and they hope to use repetitivity by having so many satellites in space. Since this program is about national security and security scan, I think we need to focus, all of us have been focusing on the century which ISRO has made. I personally am very excited by the Cartosat 2 series satellite. It is an outstanding eye in space. which will give pictures at a resolution less than a meter.
Oh, less than a meter.
Less
That's
than a
very
meter
interesting.
resolution.
Okay.
It's an outstanding resolution, and it has the capability of monitoring what activities happen across our borders by our hostile neighbors, both on the western front and on the eastern front. And with those images, it is possible to do change detection and whatever changes
So it also
may
has
happen.
a high pixel in terms of the resolution of the picture?
It is a very high resolution camera, and it has a less than a meter resolution. So like I said, if Prime Minister Modi or the National Security Advisor wanted to count the number of cars which are parked in Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's house,
That is possible.
He need not ask his person on the ground. He can well just look at a picture from the Cartosat 2
Well, that's
series.
a very interesting thought. We'll just hold on to that.
On the flip side, not just Pakistan, even in the White House, the number of cars parked can be counted. And it's not just number of cars. When you have that capability, you can count the number of vehicles in a cantonment.
Just hang on to that, Pallava. I'll come to you in a moment. Ajey, I want you to pick up this thread, which is that when we talk about a country's overall military capability, what is the role of satellites and surveillance, and how would you sort of frame it?
You see, when we talk of a military capability from a perspective of satellites, in recent times, people have understood the importance of satellite technology for the military, particularly with 1991 Gulf War. It became very evident during that war that you need to look at satellites at three levels. One is a navigational satellites, other is a communication satellite, and third is a what we call remote sensing or reconnaissance satellite. So to pick up imagery, you require remote sensing satellites. Cartosat is one such satellite. This is the sixth satellite launched by India. We got two series, that is Cartosat 1 and Cartosat 2. Cartosat 1 had only one satellite, and this series has got 5 satellites now, and we will have one more satellite, and then we will graduate to Cartosat 3 series satellite. As far as navigational networks are concerned, everybody understands that GPS has been used very effectively for various war strategies too. Right from movement of the platforms, that means from aircrafts to ships, and also for the weapon delivery, you require accurate navigational inputs.
Now,
And
by
that has been
GPS, you mean
provided.
what you can even use in cars?
Exactly.
The same thing.
System, which is slightly more modified for the purposes, or I can say it offers more accuracy for the purposes of military. And as far as communications are concerned, satellite communication is considered to be one of the best communication systems available, because it's very difficult to breach that sort of a communication system. So from that perspective, militaries have been using globally satellites for the purposes of remote sensing, navigation, as well as for communication.
Now, would it be
purposes.
fair to say that when we talk about network-centric warfare, the satellite plays a very important part in enabling the network, as it were? Would that be a fair statement?
Definitely. Network-centric warfare without satellite is no
not
network-centric
possible.
possible.
Very good. General Saxena, if I could bring you in here, you've been associated with the Indian endeavor in the military for a long time. Now, there was talk about an integrated space effort or an integrated space cell for the armed forces of India. So, can you help the viewers to understand where is India in terms of the military application or utilization of satellites?
Uday, if you talk about the military's use of satellite, it actually started as a spin-off from the capabilities developed by the ISRO. And as early as 1979-80, when the SLV-3 was in the making, we had the project director SLV-3 come to DRDO and start developing the integrated guided missiles development program, and in Agni make the solid fuel propellant for Agni. That is the start there. Then came the Indian remote sensing satellites and the INSAT satellites. Now, Indian remote sensing satellites, 11 of them are the biggest constellation of satellites in the world used for military communication. The spin-offs came from there. And also the INSAT communication from there came. To harness all this, in headquarter ideas in June 2010, there was a proposal to establish an integrated space cell.
And this is the integrated defense
Integrated
headquarters.
space cell is a tri-service cell which is manned by the experts with a view to optimize the use of the satellite capability of the country for military use. Now, I was coming from the dual use to a single use satellite. Now, I'll talk of GSAT-7 satellite. Now, GSAT-7 satellite is on, or INSAT-4F as they say, the multi-band military communications satellite dedicated to the Indian Navy, launched in 2013. Now this has a tremendous resolution, also secure lifeline communication. It will be interesting for us to know that in an exercise conducted in 2014, which is called TROPEX exercise, or the theater level readiness and operational exercise, this GSAT-7 connected 75 aircraft and 60 ships seamlessly.
So this is the network we were talking
This
about.
is one. Thereafter, we came to GSAT-6, which was more towards defense surveillance, net-centric warfare and navigation. It has a capability, a very specific capability of 5 spot beams. The spot beams create a resolution, and the cryogenic engine and also the S-band unfurlable antenna was a very, very new
I think
technique.
it's almost like a tutorial that you have given us with a lot of technical detail, but can I again summarize this, and would it be fair to say that India is making the appropriate
Yes.
investments
Yes.
as far as the military application is
Yes.
concerned? Okay, Pallab, can I come back to you? What if we were to look at this globally? Ajey spoke about 1991 and the war for Kuwait and how that had introduced the technological dimension. So 25 years from 1991 to where we are now, how would you assess the relevance of the satellite and space capability, the link to cyber, and what is the current global, shall we say, pattern that is emerging?
See, the global pattern is very clear. More and more satellites are being used for security purposes, and India is not being left behind. We have secure communication satellite dedicated, as the General said, for Navy. We have our own navigation satellite series called Navik, which gives a very high accuracy Desi GPS, as one may call, which is capable for less than 5-meter resolution for our armed forces. And then we also have a whole bunch of satellites which have earth imaging capabilities, both earth imaging towards taking pictures in daylight, and we also have 2 satellites, the RadarSat satellites, which are capable of taking pictures day and night. They don't get blinded. Even if there is hail, rain or storm, the RadarSat can still take pictures. And all
Ajey,
of
would
these...
this help in our avalanche disaster management in any case, or that would be difficult?
To a certain extent, but there is another satellite which is going to come up by 2021, which is being made with along with NASA, called NISAR, NASA ISRO satellite, which is a change detection satellite which uses technology both for change detection on Earth, on glaciers and snow. So it will help in, probably it is expected, for early warning of earthquakes, landslides, avalanches of that nature. Currently, I don't think we have the capability through our satellites for early detection of avalanches. So our soldiers in Siachen would still continue have to monitor the avalanche
and the
through
whole
physical
remote sensing
means,
kind of
the
technology.
remote sensing technology. But the capability which we have through imaging, and with so many satellites in the Cartosat series available, you can take pictures of the same region again
Repeatedly.
and again and again, and then put it on a software and simply monitor change detection.
And have high levels
High
of
level.
surveillance. support.
Including one of our satellites which has capability of taking continuous video of very high resolution of a particular place. And I have seen the output. It's unbelievable. The clarity is so good. But unfortunately, some of these high resolution images are still not available in the civilian domain. Despite all this talk of smart cities, we cannot deploy those images for development of our cities, but they are all available for the security.
You can see the
establishment.
entertainment industry is already moving in terms of, gaming these things. But Ajey, I want to bring you to another point. He was talking about a number of satellites being up there in space. Now, there is one estimate which says that from Sputnik to where we are now, the world has seen the launch of more than 6,000 satellites in space, of which about 1,500 are operational now. So, which means about 4,500 plus minus are part of debris. They are not operational, but they are in their orbits. How do we manage space? Well, space in space, the management of space in space. How is that going to be done?
Management of space is increasingly becoming a very difficult issue, and that's why there has been much of a talk on space debris, because it's not only the satellites. Whenever you are launching a rocket, the remaining portions of rocket also remain and revolve around as a space debris. So space debris is a big issue which has been added by the 2007 anti-satellite test by China. So it has further added the debris over there. The problem with existing space debris is that what is commonly known as a Kessler syndrome.
What is known as, just repeat it?
Kessler syndrome.
Kessler syndrome.
So a debris hits on other debris and more debris form. So what happens is that instead of reducing the number of debris, the debris are increasing day by day. We have got certain amount of mechanisms which are there, which have been accepted globally. It is not a mechanism which is legally binding, but many people are following the mechanism called space debris mitigation guidelines. So that is working in a beautiful way. What you require to know about space debris is you need to have something which is known as a space situational awareness mechanism. You require satellites, you require radar systems, you require telescopes, and all the data has to be culled together, and then only we are in a position to know exact movement of the debris. Right now USA has got a mechanism like this, and they on open source forward this data to everybody. That's why you must have read in the newspapers that ISRO has delayed its launch by 1 minute or 2 minutes. That happens because the inputs, because the inputs are being received by from US, and we got a software which works on it.
One simple question, Ajey. Is there any technology now that allows the retrieval of debris from space? Not yet.
Retrieval of a debris, there are a lot of technologies which have been worked on.
But nothing has been proved.
No, the issue is that what happens is that if I am going to the space to remove a debris, I can perforce remove a satellite of other country also. So there are issues which are.
So these are protocols that need to be. General Saxena, if I could request you to come in on the Indian Army.
Sir,
Meaning,
I will.
What is the requirement of the Indian Army when we look at the next 20 years? You were talking about the integrated cell.
I will keep
so
my
what is the projection?
Yeah, I will keep my focus on the army
Yeah.
and on the armed forces per se. Our focus and requirement from the satellite world is defense surveillance, net-centric warfare, and navigation. And I'm very happy to say that in these 3-4 categories which I mentioned, the satellites which are now being pressed into service are the ones which we are actually looking at. I'm talking of RISAT-2. RISAT-2 is a radar imaging satellite, which is India's first with a synthetic aperture radar. Now, this radar is very capable of not only providing a resolution of less than 1 meter, it can track hostile ships at sea, it can carry out other observation, it can, besides carrying out the other civilian functions of floods and cyclones and
Ships at sea, we are talking about maritime domain awareness.
Yes, maritime.
MDA.
Now, second is Cartosat, as Mr. Bagla was talking about. Now, this Cartosat 2C series of satellite, it has a swath of 9.6 kilometer and a resolution of 80 centimeter, which is now reduced to 65 centimeter. Imagine a satellite traveling at 37 kilometer per second can take a video of 1 minute, and a strong and a sense video is a great value for the armed forces, very, very great value for the armed forces. Now, this type of satellite like RISAT-2, like Cartosat-2, like the ones which I talked about earlier, IRS and INSAT capability, and not to forget the GSAT 7 and 6 provide us a total capability scenario. Now, what we need to do in the integrated defense cell, which has always been a very major challenge, is to put our requirements together in a rational manner. We have the capability today. We have the capability to find out the needle in the haystack, but the three services need to put their act together, come out with a common requirement, state that requirement rather than being service verticals. We should
I hope your former colleagues in the integrated cell are tuning into what you're saying.
Yes,
but
we
hold
are
on.
ourselves propagating this point that we are trying to find the
Just hold on for a second. I'll come back in the interest of time. Pallava, I want you to come on to a larger national point. Everyone talks about India's low cost characteristic when it comes to satellites. We had some figures earlier that we've only spent $1.2 billion. Now, how would you describe India's USP here? Is it because wages are less? Is it because we are able to introduce greater economy? Why is the Indian satellite launch low cost as compared to a European or an American option?
2 or 3 reasons why India's space program, nuclear program is low cost, especially the space program if one looks at. See, ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization, is a publicly funded organization. They don't have to pay any dividend to their shareholders. So the moment you look at American and Western companies, it's mostly private players, and they have to pay dividends to their shareholders, which makes the cost go up drastically. When ISRO doesn't need to do that, you can imagine the cost is lower. The second issue comes is, I have repeatedly said that the rupee takes you a longer distance than the dollar. We pay our scientists in rupees. It's not that they get wages which are poorer than anybody in India, but compared to what wages would be in America, they get, when you convert it to dollar terms, it is lower. So the wages are lower, the rupee takes you a longer distance.
And the ecosystem is really of low cost as compared to what we are seeing outside.
The ecosystem is there. And third point is, ISRO kind of develops these things in a holistic manner. So your cost comes down for immediate
I think we have to have a longer chat on this. I'm sorry, in the interest of time. You know, to the extent that space and cyber capabilities are going to become more critical in a country's comprehensive national power, satellites will be the metric to gauge both accomplishment and efficacy. India has prioritized the use of satellites for a host of development and human security related initiatives. And as our discussion illustrated, this includes education, agriculture, land mapping, and of course, the use of satellites for weather forecasting and maritime domain awareness, amongst other capabilities. Surveillance and intelligence gathering is an integral part of the tripod of military capability. The other two strands are firepower or delivery of ordnance and strategic lift capability. In the emerging technology-driven network kind of warfare that is coming up, it is expected that major nations will invest in the space cyber continuum to enhance their national security capabilities in a holistic manner. India has a complex and a contested security challenge, and the space sector offers some opportunities to maximize existing competence and arrive at innovative national options. The ISRO success story has a large number of potentialities for India, and scaling up from the existing capability to heavier satellites is the next step. Concurrently, investing in human resource and the national ecosystem that sustains the space effort in India is critical. Prime Minister Modi is a committed space enthusiast and has envisioned a larger South Asian satellite footprint to nurture security and growth for all in the region, or SAGAR. This augurs well for the growth of ISRO and its gene pool. On that note, allow me to thank my guests, Mr. Bagla, Group Captain Lele, and Lieutenant General Saxena. And thank you for watching Security Scan. Goodbye.